On a softly lit table, a folded map of Europe rests beside a small bundle of letters tied with faded string. The date on the map reads 1916, and the candlelight beside it flickers gently, casting warm shadows across the paper. Tonight, we will read some of these letters together, words written by hand, sent across great distances and kept safe for over a century. These are quiet letters from the years between 1914 and 1918, written by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. They speak of small comforts, of weather and food, of love and hope and the wish to be home. There is nothing alarming here, nothing you need to brace yourself for. This is simply a gentle reading, meant to carry you toward rest. By minute 2, we will hold the first letter in our hands. By minute 4, we will hear about a parcel sent from home. By minute 6, we will sit with a soldier describing the stillness of a winter evening. You do not need to remember anything. You do not need to stay awake. Simply listen, breathe, and let these quiet voices keep you company. If you're just settling in, these are quiet letters from long ago, and there is nothing you need to do but listen. To understand the letters we are about to read, we must first step back to the world in which they were written. The year is 1914. Europe is a patchwork of empires and nations, connected by railways, postal routes, and the steady rhythm of daily life. In villages across England, France, Germany, and beyond, families rise with the sun, tend their gardens, and gather around tables for simple meals. Letters are a common thread, carried by postmen on bicycles and by trains that cross borders with regularity. In the summers before the conflict, young men work in fields and factories, in shops and offices. They write letters to sweethearts, to parents, to friends in distant towns. The postal system is a marvel of the age. A letter dropped into a red post box in a small English village can reach Paris or Berlin within days. Stamps are affordable, paper is plentiful, and the written word is the primary means of staying connected across distance. The villages themselves are quiet places. Cottages with thatched roofs line narrow lanes. Smoke rises from chimneys in the early morning, and the sound of church bells marks the hours. Children walk to school along paths bordered by hedgerows. Mothers hang laundry in the garden, and fathers return from work as the sun begins to set. The rhythm of life is steady, predictable, and rooted in the seasons. When the conflict begins in the summer of 1914, it arrives like a sudden storm. Telegrams are sent, notices are posted, and young men are called to serve. In railway stations across Europe, families gather to say goodbye. Mothers press parcels into the hands of their sons, socks, chocolate, photographs, letters already written for the journey. The platforms are crowded, but the farewells are often quiet, marked by embraces and unspoken words. For those who leave, the journey to the front is long and unfamiliar. Trains carry them through landscapes they have never seen, past villages and fields and rivers. The further they travel, the more the familiar world recedes. And yet, even in the midst of this great upheaval, one thing remains constant: the letter. From the very first days of the conflict, soldiers begin to write. They write on scraps of paper, on postcards, on the backs of supply forms. They write by candlelight, by lamplight, by the faint glow of a match, and they address their letters to the people they love most. The postal system adapts quickly to the demands of the conflict. Special field post offices are established, staffed by men who sort and forward thousands of letters each day. Mail sacks are loaded onto lorries, then onto ships, then onto trains. The journey of a single letter, from a dugout in France to a cottage in England, might take a week or more, but the letters keep coming and the replies keep arriving. This steady flow of words becomes a lifeline, a thread connecting two worlds that seem impossibly far apart. For the families at home, the arrival of a letter is a moment of quiet relief. A mother recognizes her son's handwriting on the envelope and holds it close before opening it. A wife reads the same lines again and again, finding comfort in the familiar phrases. A child is told that the letter is from their father, and they touch the paper as if it were a gift. The letters are kept, folded carefully, and stored in drawers and boxes. Some are tied with ribbon. Others are pressed between the pages of a family Bible. The world of 1914 is in many ways a world of waiting. Families wait for news, for letters, for the sound of the postman's footsteps. Soldiers wait for mail call, for the chance to hear from home. And in this waiting, a quiet bond is formed, a bond made of paper and ink, of words written in haste and read in hope. As we prepare to read these letters, we can imagine the hands that wrote them and the hands that received them. We can picture the candle-lit rooms, the kitchen tables, the small desks in dugouts and billets. We can hear the scratch of a pen, the rustle of paper, the distant sound of rain. And we can begin to understand why these letters, simple as they are, meant so much to so many. The lantern on the table beside us glows softly, just as it might have glowed in a cottage a century ago. The world outside is quiet, and the letters are waiting to be read. As we step into this world of a century ago, you can let your shoulders soften and your breath slow. A letter begins its life in the smallest of moments. Perhaps it is late at night and a soldier sits in a dugout, a stub of candle flickering beside him. The walls around him are packed earth, reinforced with timber, and the air is cool and damp. He has a sheet of paper balanced on his knee, a pencil in his hand, and a few quiet minutes before sleep. He writes slowly, carefully, knowing that his words will travel far. The first words are often the hardest. "Dear Mother," he might begin, or "My darling wife," or simply, "Hello from France." He writes about the weather, rain again, or perhaps a rare patch of sunshine. He mentions the food, the friends he has made, the small routines that fill his days. He does not write about the difficult things. Those are best left unspoken. Instead, he fills the page with ordinary details, the kind that will bring comfort to the reader at home. When the letter is finished, he folds it carefully, once, twice, 3 times, and slides it into an envelope. He addresses it in his neatest handwriting, adding the name of the village, the county, the country. He licks the envelope's edge and presses it shut. For a moment, he holds it in his hands, this small, fragile thing that will carry his voice across hundreds of miles. The next morning, the letter is collected by a runner, a young man who moves quickly along the trenches, gathering mail from each section. The runner carries the letters in a canvas sack slung over his shoulder, and when the sack is full, he makes his way to the field post office, a tent or a requisitioned building where clerks sort the mail by destination. The field post office is a busy place, though the work is quiet and methodical. Clerks stamp each letter, bundle them by region, and load them into larger sacks. The sacks are then carried by lorry to the nearest railhead, where they are placed aboard trains bound for the coast. The trains move slowly, stopping at stations along the way, taking on more mail, more passengers, more cargo. At the coast, the mail sacks are loaded onto ships. The channel crossing can be rough, the waters gray and churning, but the ships press on, carrying their cargo of letters and parcels. When they reach the English shore, the sacks are unloaded and placed aboard more trains, which fan out across the country, delivering mail to sorting offices in towns and cities. From the sorting office, the letters are passed to local postmen, who set out each morning on foot or by bicycle. In a small village, the postman is a familiar figure, known to every family. He carries his leather satchel over one shoulder, and he knows the name on every envelope before he reads it. When he knocks on a cottage door, the family inside already knows why he has come. The mother who receives the letter holds it for a moment before opening it. She recognizes the handwriting, the way her son curves his letters, the faint smudge of pencil on the paper. She sits down at the kitchen table where the lamplight is warm and steady, and she reads his words aloud to herself, or perhaps to the children gathered around her. The letter is short, just a page or two, but it is enough. It is proof that he is alive, that he is thinking of her, that the distance between them is not as vast as it seems. Sometimes the letters travel in the other direction. A mother writes to her son, describing the garden, the neighbors, the way the seasons are changing at home. A wife writes about the children, their small triumphs and daily routines. A sweetheart writes of the walks they used to take, the songs they used to sing, the future they are waiting for. These letters are bundled together, stamped, and sent across the channel, following the same route in reverse. The journey of a letter is long and uncertain. Some letters are delayed by weather, by the movements of the conflict, by the sheer volume of mail. Some are lost entirely, swallowed by the chaos of transit. But most arrive eventually, finding their way to the hands that are waiting for them. And when they do, they bring a moment of connection, a bridge across the distance. As we read these letters, we can imagine them making their journey, folded and sealed, carried by runners and clerks and postmen, crossing land and sea, arriving at last in a quiet room where a lamp is burning and someone is waiting. The lantern in the window glows softly, a signal of home. With each letter's journey, imagine your own thoughts drifting gently, carried by slow currents toward rest. The first letters home are often the most tentative. A soldier, newly arrived at the front, finds himself in a world unlike anything he has known. The landscape is unfamiliar, the routines are strange, and the sounds of the night are full of new and distant noises. He writes to his mother, his father, his sweetheart, trying to put into words what he sees and feels. One such letter, written in the autumn of 1914, begins simply, "Dear Mother, I have arrived safely and am well. The journey was long, but we are settled now in a place I cannot name. The countryside here is flat and green, with rows of trees along the roads. The weather has been wet, and the mud is something I have never seen before, thick and heavy like clay. But we are managing, and the men are in good spirits." The soldier goes on to describe his surroundings: the tent where he sleeps, the blanket he has been issued, the sound of rain on the canvas above. He mentions the food, bread, tea, a stew that is warm if not particularly tasty, and the friendships he is beginning to form. He does not dwell on the difficulties. Instead, he fills his letter with small, reassuring details. Another letter, written a few weeks later, offers a glimpse of the daily routine. We rise early before the sun, and there is always something to do. Drills, inspections, carrying supplies from one place to another. The days pass quickly, though they all seem much the same. In the evenings, we gather in small groups, talking and playing cards. Some of the men have brought harmonicas, and there is often music before we sleep. The tone of these early letters is often one of wonder and adjustment. The soldiers are learning to navigate a new world, and they share their observations with the care of someone describing a foreign country. They notice the way the light falls on the fields, the sounds of birds in the morning, the particular quality of the silence at night. A letter from a young officer, written in early 1915, captures this sense of quiet observation. Last night I stood watch under a sky full of stars. The air was cold, and my breath hung in front of me like smoke. There was no sound but the wind, and for a moment I felt almost peaceful. It is strange how stillness can exist even here, in the midst of so much. The soldiers also write about their homesickness, though they do so gently, not wishing to worry their families. A private from Yorkshire describes the cottage he left behind. I think often of the garden and the way the roses look in June. I wonder if the cat still sits on the windowsill in the afternoons. These small things are what I miss most, the ordinary things, the things I never thought to notice before. Another soldier, a father of 2 young children, writes to his wife, "Tell the little ones I am thinking of them every day. I hope they are being good and helping you around the house. When I close my eyes at night, I see their faces, and it gives me comfort." The letters from this period are full of such quiet reflections. The soldiers are adjusting, finding their footing, and reaching out to the people they love. They write about the weather, the food, the routines, the friendships. They describe the landscape, the sky, the sound of rain. And through it all, they maintain a tone of calm reassurance, offering their families a window into their new world without causing alarm. As we read these first letters, we can sense the distance they have traveled, not just in miles, but in experience. The soldiers are far from home, in a place they never expected to be. And yet, their words are full of the same simple hopes and concerns that fill any letter. The wish to be remembered, the longing for home, the comfort of connection. The lamplight flickers gently, and the letters continue. As these first letters are read aloud, you can settle deeper into wherever you are resting tonight. As the weeks and months pass, the letters home begin to settle into a rhythm. The initial wonder fades, replaced by the steady accumulation of ordinary details. Soldiers write about the food they eat, the weather they endure, the friendships they form. These letters are not dramatic. They are, instead, quietly domestic, full of the small routines that fill each day. One letter, written in the spring of 1915, describes a typical morning. We were woken before dawn as usual, and after a breakfast of bread and tea, we set to work on our duties. There is always something to be done: mending, carrying, cleaning. The mornings pass quickly, and before we know it, the sun is high and the day is half gone. Another soldier writes about the food, with a mix of humor and resignation. The rations are what you might expect, plain but filling. We have bread, tinned meat, and sometimes a stew that is mostly potato. The tea is the best part. It is hot and strong, and we drink it at every opportunity. I have learned to appreciate simple things. The letters often mention the weather, which is a constant presence in the lives of the soldiers. Rain, mud, cold, and occasional sunshine are described in patient detail. It has been raining for 3 days now, and the ground is like a swamp. My boots are never dry, and my socks are always damp. But yesterday, the sun came out for an hour, and we all stood outside, turning our faces to the warmth. It was a small thing, but it lifted everyone's spirits. Friendships are a recurring theme in these letters. The soldiers form bonds with the men around them, sharing food, blankets, and stories. A corporal from London writes, "I have made good friends here, men from all over the country with different accents and different stories. We share what we have, and we look out for one another. In the evenings, we sit together and talk, and sometimes we laugh. It is strange how close you can become to people you have only just met." The routines of daily life are described with a sense of quiet acceptance. There is drilling, there is waiting, there is the endless task of maintaining equipment and supplies. The soldiers find comfort in the predictability of these routines, even as they long for home. A private from a small village in Sussex writes, "The days here are much the same, one after another. We rise, we work, we eat, we sleep. There is not much time for thinking, which is perhaps a blessing. I try to keep busy, and when I have a spare moment, I write to you. The letters also contain small moments of joy and humor. A soldier describes a game of football played in a muddy field. Another mentions a cat that has adopted the men in his section, sleeping by the fire at night. These details, simple as they are, bring the letters to life and offer a glimpse of the humanity that persists even in difficult circumstances. One letter, written in the winter of 1916, captures the quiet comfort of a shared meal. Last night we pooled our rations and made a kind of feast. Bread, cheese, a tin of sardines, and a bar of chocolate that someone had been saving. We ate by candlelight, and for a little while it felt almost like home. The letters from this period are full of such small comforts. A warm cup of tea, a dry pair of socks, a letter from home. These are the things that sustain the soldiers through the long days and longer nights. They do not ask for much, and they do not complain. Instead, they focus on the positive, offering their families a version of their lives that is manageable, even reassuring. As we read these letters, we can imagine the soldiers sitting in their dugouts, their candles flickering, their pencils moving slowly across the page. They are far from home, but their words are full of the same quiet details that fill any life. Meals and weather, friends and routines. The lantern on the table glows softly, and the letters continue. Each small detail, a cup of tea, a shared blanket, can become a quiet anchor for your own sense of calm. Of all the letters the soldiers receive, few bring as much joy as those that announce the arrival of a parcel from home. The packages themselves are simple, wrapped in brown paper and tied with string, but their contents are treasures beyond measure. A pair of hand-knitted socks, a bar of chocolate, a photograph of a loved one. These small gifts carry the warmth of home across the distance. One soldier writes to his mother with evident delight. "Your parcel arrived yesterday, and I cannot tell you how happy it made me. The socks are perfect, warm and thick, just what I needed. The chocolate was gone within the hour, shared among the men in my section. And the photograph of you and Father now sits in my pocket, where I can look at it whenever I like." The parcels often contain practical items: socks, scarves, gloves, soap, tobacco. But they also include small luxuries, biscuits, sweets, tins of fruit, that remind the soldiers of the lives they left behind. A corporal from Manchester describes opening a parcel from his sister. She had packed it so carefully, with newspaper between each item to keep them safe. There were shortbread biscuits, a tin of condensed milk, and a little sachet of lavender from the garden. The smell of it brought me right back to home, just for a moment. The letters of thanks are full of gratitude and affection. The soldiers know how much effort goes into assembling and sending these parcels, and they are careful to acknowledge every item. A private from Kent writes, "Thank you for the cake, which arrived in surprisingly good condition. It was a little crumbled at the edges, but the taste was just as I remembered. We ate it together, a few of us, and we all agreed it was the best thing we had tasted in weeks." For the families at home, the sending of parcels is both a labor of love and a way of feeling connected to their absent sons, husbands, and brothers. Mothers spend hours knitting socks and scarves. Wives bake cakes and wrap them carefully in greaseproof paper. The parcels are a form of care, sent across the sea, and the letters that come back are proof that the care has been received. One letter, written by a young officer to his sweetheart, describes the moment of receiving a parcel. "When the mail came in, I saw my name on a package and my heart leapt. I opened it slowly, savoring the anticipation. Inside I found your letter, a pair of gloves you had knitted yourself, and a small tin of toffees. I am wearing the gloves now as I write, and they are keeping my hands warm. Thank you, my dear, for thinking of me." The parcels also serve as a connection to the seasons and holidays at home. At Christmas, the post offices are flooded with packages, plum puddings, mince pies, cards decorated by children. The soldiers receive these gifts with a mixture of joy and longing, grateful for the reminder of the celebrations they are missing. A sergeant from Yorkshire writes to his wife at Christmas, "The parcel arrived just in time for the holiday. The pudding was delicious, and we shared it among the men. Your card is pinned above my bed where I can see it every night. It makes me feel closer to you, even though we are so far apart." The letters about parcels are some of the warmest and most personal in the collection. They are full of small details: what was inside, how it was shared, what it meant, and they offer a glimpse of the deep bonds between soldiers and their families. The parcels are more than just packages. They are tangible expressions of love, sent across the distance and received with open hearts. As we read these letters, we can imagine the parcels themselves: the brown paper, the string, the handwriting on the address label. We can picture the soldiers opening them by candlelight, sharing the contents with their friends, and sitting down to write their letters of thanks. The lamplight is warm, and the night is quiet. As parcels are opened in these letters, you might imagine receiving something soft and comforting yourself. Among the most tender letters are those addressed to mothers and fathers. These letters are full of reassurance, gratitude, and the quiet hope that the distance will not last forever. The soldiers write with care, knowing that their words will be read and reread, kept safe in a drawer or pressed between the pages of a book. A young private from a village in Devon writes to his mother, "Dear Mother, I hope this letter finds you well, and that the garden is blooming as beautifully as it always does in spring. I am in good health and good spirits, and I think of you often. Please do not worry about me. I am being careful, and the men around me are good company. I look forward to the day when I can sit with you again at the kitchen table, drinking tea and watching the birds in the yard." The letters to mothers often include small requests, news from home, updates on siblings, descriptions of the weather and the seasons. The soldiers want to hear about the ordinary things, the details that remind them of the life they left behind. A corporal from Lincolnshire writes, "Tell me about the harvest and how the apples are coming along. I wonder if the old oak tree is still standing, and if the fox has been back to the hen house. These small things seem more important to me now than they ever did before." Fathers receive letters too, often with a different tone, more formal perhaps, but no less affectionate. A young officer writes to his father with a mixture of respect and longing. "Dear Father, I trust you are well and that the business is prospering. I often think of our walks together and the advice you gave me before I left. I carry your words with me, and they have been a comfort in difficult moments. I hope to make you proud and to see you again before too long." The letters to parents are full of reassurance. The soldiers know that their families are worried, and they do their best to ease those fears. A private from Scotland writes, "Please do not trouble yourself on my account. I am well cared for and the days pass quickly. There is always something to do, and the men here are a cheerful lot. We look out for one another and we keep our spirits up." At the same time, the letters reveal a deep longing for home. The soldiers miss their parents, their siblings, their childhood rooms. A lance corporal from Wales writes, "I dreamed last night of the house and of sitting by the fire with you and Mother. When I woke, I could almost smell the peat burning, and for a moment I forgot where I was. It was a good dream, and I hope to dream it again." The letters also contain expressions of gratitude for the parcels, for the love, for the support. A sergeant from the Midlands writes, "Thank you for everything you have done for me and for everything you continue to do. I know it is not easy waiting for news, but your letters mean more to me than I can say. Please keep writing and know that I am thinking of you every day." As we read these letters, we can sense the bond between parent and child, unchanged by distance, strengthened by separation. The soldiers write with love and care, and their words carry the warmth of home across the miles. The lantern in the window glows softly, a signal of welcome. These quiet words to mothers and fathers can remind you of your own safe places and the people who care for you. Some of the most moving letters are those addressed to wives, sweethearts, and children. These letters are full of affection, longing, and the quiet hope for reunion. The soldiers write with tenderness, imagining the faces of the people they love and wishing they could be with them. A young husband writes to his wife in the summer of 1916, "My darling, I received your letter yesterday, and it brought me such happiness. I read it twice, and then once more before bed. The news of the garden made me smile, and I can picture you tending the roses just as you always do. I miss you more than words can say, but I carry you with me always, in my heart and in my thoughts." The letters to sweethearts are often shy and hopeful. A private from Kent writes to the girl he left behind, "I hope you are well and that you think of me from time to time. I think of you often, especially in the quiet moments before sleep. I remember the walks we used to take and the way you laughed when I told you jokes. I hope to hear your laughter again soon." The soldiers also write to their children with a simplicity and warmth that is deeply touching. A father of 2 young daughters writes, "Dear little ones, I hope you are being good for your mother and helping her with the chores. I am far away, but I think of you every day. I dream of coming home to see you and of reading you stories by the fire. Be brave, be kind, and know that I love you very much." The letters often include small gifts or tokens, a pressed flower, a sketch, a lock of hair. These objects are meant to bridge the distance, to give the children something tangible to hold on to while their father is away. A sergeant writes, "I am sending you a little drawing I made of a bird I saw outside our billet. It had bright feathers and sang beautifully in the morning. I thought you might like to see it." For the wives and sweethearts, The letters are a source of comfort and reassurance. They read them by lamplight in the quiet of the evening, and they keep them close. A soldier writes to his wife, "I want you to know that I am well and that I am thinking of you always. The days are long, but the thought of coming home to you keeps me going. Please do not worry. I am being careful and I am surrounded by good men. We will be together again before you know it." The letters to loved ones are full of small hopes and simple dreams. The soldiers imagine the life they will have after the conflict. A cottage in the countryside, a garden, children playing in the yard. These visions sustain them through the difficult days, and they share them with the people they love. A private from a small town in Yorkshire writes to his sweetheart, "When this is all over, I want us to have a little house of our own, with a garden where we can grow vegetables and keep chickens. I want to wake up every morning with you beside me and to spend our days in peace. That is my dream, and I hold on to it with all my heart." As we read these letters, we can feel the love that flows through them, steady, quiet, enduring. The soldiers are far from home, but their hearts are with the people they love. The lamplight is soft, and the night is still. As these letters speak of love and hope, you can let your own heart rest in the warmth of connection. The letters from home are just as precious as the letters from the front. Wives, mothers, sisters, and friends write with care, filling their pages with news and encouragement. These letters carry the rhythms of ordinary life, the seasons, the weather, the small events of the village, and they remind the soldiers that the world they left behind is still there, waiting for them. A mother writes to her son in the autumn of 1915, "My dear boy, the leaves are turning here and the garden is full of color. The apples are ripe, and I have made a pie just like the ones you love. The cat misses you. She sits by the door in the evenings as if waiting for you to come home. We all miss you, but we are proud of you, and we think of you every day." Wives write with a mixture of love and longing. A young woman from a village in Somerset writes to her husband, "The children are growing so quickly, you would hardly recognize them. Little James has learned to read his name, and Mary can count to 20. They ask about you every night, and I tell them stories of the things we will do when you come home. We are waiting for you, my love, and we are counting the days." Sisters write with news of siblings, of neighbors, of the small dramas of village life. A sister from Manchester writes, "You will not believe what has happened at the corner shop. Mrs. Henderson's cat had kittens, and one of them climbed into the window display and knocked over the jam jars. The whole village is talking about it. I thought you would enjoy a bit of gossip from home. The letters from home are full of encouragement and hope. Families know that their words will be read and reread, and they fill them with as much warmth as they can. A father writes to his son, "We are proud of you, and we know you are doing your best. Keep your spirits up and remember that we are thinking of you every moment. You are not alone, even though you are far away." The soldiers treasure these letters. They read them by candlelight in the quiet of the evening, and they keep them close, folded in a pocket, tucked under a pillow, pinned to the wall of a dugout. The letters are a lifeline, a connection to the world they left behind. A corporal from a village in Wales writes, "I received your letter today, and it was the best thing that has happened all week. I read it 3 times, and I will read it again tonight before I sleep. Thank you for writing, and please keep the letters coming. They mean more to me than I can say." The letters from home also carry the weight of waiting. Families do not know when their loved ones will return or what the future will hold. But they write anyway, filling their pages with love and hope, and trusting that their words will find their way. As we read these letters, we can imagine the cottages and kitchens where they were written, the lamplight, the pen and paper, the quiet determination to send a piece of home across the sea. The lantern in the window glows softly, a signal of hope. These letters from home carry the same quiet hope, and you can rest in that hope too. Some of the most beautiful letters are those that describe the quiet moments, the stillness before dawn, the stars overhead, the silence that falls when the day's work is done. In these letters, the soldiers reflect on peace, on nature, and on the small wonders that persist even in difficult places. A young officer writes in the winter of 1916, "Last night I stood watch under a sky full of stars. The air was cold and clear, and I could see my breath in front of me. There was no sound but the wind, and for a while I felt almost peaceful. It is strange how stillness can exist even here." Another soldier, a private from a village in Yorkshire, describes the frost. "This morning everything was covered in frost. The ground, the sandbags, even the barbed wire. The sun came up slowly, and for a moment everything was silver. It was beautiful in its way, and I wished I could have shared it with you." The letters often mention the stars, which are a constant presence in the night sky. A corporal from Scotland writes, I look up at the stars and think of you looking at the same sky. It makes me feel less far away somehow. The stars do not care about the things that trouble us. They just shine, steady and bright, night after night. The quiet moments are also times for reflection. Soldiers write about their hopes for the future, their memories of home, and their longing for peace. A sergeant from the Midlands writes, in the quiet of the night, I think about the life I want to live when this is all over. A small house, a garden, a family. Simple things, but they are all I want. I hold onto that dream and it gives me strength. The letters describe the sounds of silence, the absence of noise, the hush that falls over the landscape. A private from a town in Lancashire writes, there are times when everything is still, and you can hear nothing but your own breathing. It is a strange kind of peace, and I find myself grateful for it. The soldiers also notice the beauty of nature, even in the midst of difficulty. A lance corporal from Wales writes, I saw a robin this morning hopping along the edge of the trench. It seemed so out of place, so ordinary, and yet it made me smile. Life goes on, even here. These letters are full of gentle wonder. The soldiers observe the world around them with care, finding moments of beauty in unexpected places. They write about the moonlight, the frost, the way the light changes at dawn. And through it all, they reach out to the people they love, sharing these quiet moments across the distance. A young officer writes to his sweetheart, I wish you could see the sky tonight. It is clear and cold, and the stars are brighter than I have ever seen them. I am thinking of you and hoping that you are looking up at the same sky, somewhere far away. As we read these letters, we can imagine the stillness of the night, the cold air, the distant stars, the quiet breath of a soldier standing watch. These are moments of peace, small and fleeting, but deeply felt. The lamplight flickers gently, and the night grows soft around us. As these soldiers describe quiet nights, you can imagine your own world growing still and soft around you. In the midst of the conflict, small creatures offered moments of unexpected comfort. Soldiers wrote home about the animals they encountered, the horses that carried supplies, the dogs that wandered into camp, the birds that sang at dawn. These letters are full of warmth and gentle humor, a reminder that life persists even in difficult places. A private from a farming village in Somerset writes to his mother, "You would be amused to know that we have adopted a cat. She appeared one evening, thin and hungry, and we gave her some of our rations. Now she sleeps by the stove in our dugout and keeps us company through the long nights. The men have named her Duchess, though she is far from refined. She catches mice and brings them to us as gifts, which we accept with as much grace as we can manage. The horses are mentioned often in the letters. These animals are essential to the movement of supplies, and the soldiers develop deep affection for them. A corporal from Yorkshire writes, "I have been assigned to care for one of the horses, a big gray mare named Rosie. She is gentle and patient, and she seems to understand more than you would expect. I brush her coat every evening and give her extra oats when I can find them. She nuzzles my hand when I approach, and it is one of the best parts of my day." Dogs, too, appear in the letters. Some are strays that wander into the trenches. Others are brought from home or adopted from local villages. A sergeant from Manchester writes, "There is a little terrier who has taken up residence with our unit. No one knows where he came from, but he has made himself at home. He follows us on our rounds and sleeps at the foot of whoever is on watch. The men spoil him terribly, sharing bits of bread and biscuit. He has lifted our spirits more than I can say. The birds are a constant presence, especially in the early morning. Soldiers write about the songs they hear, the species they recognize, the way the birds seem oblivious to the troubles of the world. A lance corporal from Wales writes, "This morning I heard a lark singing just as the sun came up. It was the most beautiful sound, rising and falling in the clear air. For a moment, I forgot where I was and simply listened. It reminded me of the fields at home and the walks we used to take in the spring." The letters about animals are full of affection and gratitude. The soldiers find comfort in the presence of these creatures, a connection to the natural world that endures despite everything. A private from a village in Kent writes, "There is something reassuring about the animals. They do not understand the reasons for any of this, and yet they carry on eating, sleeping, keeping us company. They remind me that life goes on, steady and simple, no matter what. Even the smallest creatures are noticed and appreciated. A soldier writes about a spider that has spun a web in the corner of his dugout. I have been watching a spider build her web over the past few days. She works so patiently, adding strand after strand, undisturbed by the comings and goings around her. I find myself rooting for her, hoping she catches a good meal. It is strange what you notice when you have time to look." As we read these letters, we can imagine the soldiers and their animal companions, the cat by the stove, the horse in the stable, the dog at the foot of the bed. These creatures offer comfort and companionship, a gentle presence in difficult times. The lamplight glows softly, and the night is quiet. The presence of small creatures in these letters can remind you of the gentle rhythms of the living world. The weather is a constant thread running through the letters. Soldiers write about the rain and the mud, the cold and the frost, the rare days of sunshine that lift the spirits. The seasons pass, marked by changes in the landscape and the sky, and the soldiers track them with careful attention. A private from a village in Devon writes, in the autumn of 1915, "The rain has been falling for 3 days now, and everything is mud. My boots are never dry, and my socks are always damp. But yesterday the sun came out for an hour, and we all stood outside, turning our faces to the warmth. It was a small thing, but it made all the difference." The mud is mentioned often, especially in the autumn and winter months. It is a constant challenge, something to be endured and managed. A corporal from Lincolnshire writes, "The mud here is like nothing I have ever seen. It clings to everything, boots, clothes, hands. Walking is slow work, and every step is an effort. But we manage, as we always do, and we look forward to the day when the ground dries out again. The winter brings cold and frost, and the soldiers write about the chill in the air, the ice on the water, the way their breath hangs in front of them." A sergeant from Scotland writes, "This morning everything was covered in frost. The parapet, the sandbags, even the barbed wire, all of it glittering in the early light. My fingers were numb and my nose was red, but there was something beautiful about it. The world looked clean and new just for a moment. Spring is eagerly anticipated, a promise of warmth and renewal." A lance corporal from a village in Sussex writes, "The first signs of spring are appearing. I saw a crocus yesterday pushing up through the mud, and there are buds on the trees. The birds are singing more, and the days are growing longer. It gives me hope, somehow, to see the world coming back to life." Summer brings its own challenges: heat, dust, long days. But it also brings moments of beauty. A private from a town in Lancashire writes, "The evenings are warm now, and the sky stays light until late. I sit outside after dinner and watch the sun go down, and for a little while everything feels peaceful. The crickets are singing, and the air smells of grass. It is almost like home. The soldiers also write about the sounds of the weather, the patter of rain on canvas, the whistle of wind through the trenches, the silence that follows a snowfall. A corporal from Wales writes, "Last night it snowed. When I woke this morning, the world was white and quiet. The snow had muffled everything, and for a moment there was only stillness. I stood and watched the flakes falling, soft and slow, and I felt something like peace." The passing of the seasons marks the passage of time. The soldiers count the months, waiting for the end, hopping for the day when they can return home. A private from a village in Yorkshire writes, "Another autumn is here, and the leaves are falling just as they did last year. I wonder how many more seasons I will see from this place, but I try not to dwell on it. Instead, I watch the leaves fall and think of the ones at home, and I am grateful for the beauty that remains." As we read these letters, we can feel the weather on our skin, the rain, the cold, the warmth of the sun. The soldiers track the seasons with patience and hope, finding comfort in the rhythms of the natural world. The lantern flickers gently, and the night grows soft. As the seasons turn in these letters, you can feel time slowing and softening around you. Even in the most difficult circumstances, the soldiers found moments of joy. They sang songs, played instruments, told jokes, and laughed together. The letters are full of these small celebrations, reminders that the human spirit endures. A private from a town in Manchester writes, "Last night one of the men brought out a harmonica and played a few tunes. We gathered around and sang along, our voices rough but cheerful. It was nothing special, just a few songs we all knew, but it lifted everyone's spirits. For a little while, we forgot where we were and just enjoyed the music." The songs they sang were often familiar: hymns, folk songs, music hall favorites. A corporal from London writes, "We have a sergeant who knows all the old songs, and he leads us in singing whenever we have a quiet moment. His voice is not the finest, but it does not matter. The singing brings us together, and it gives us something to share. Even the shyest men join in after a verse or two." Instruments were treasured possessions. A soldier who could play the piano, the violin, or the guitar was in high demand. A lance corporal from Wales writes, "There is a piano in the billet where we are staying, and one of the officers plays it in the evenings. He is quite good, and we gather around to listen. The music is soft and gentle, and it reminds me of home. I close my eyes and let the notes carry me away. Laughter, too, is mentioned often. The soldiers tell jokes, play pranks, and find humor in the absurdities of their situation. A private from a village in Kent writes, "You would not believe the things that make us laugh. Yesterday, one of the men slipped in the mud and landed flat on his back. He was unhurt but covered head to toe in muck. We laughed until our sides ached, and even he joined in after a moment. It is these small things that keep us going." The letters describe impromptu performances, sing-alongs, and moments of pure silliness. A sergeant from the Midlands writes, "We put on a little show for the men last week. Some of us dressed up in costumes we had cobbled together from spare uniforms and bits of cloth. We told jokes, sang songs, and acted out silly skits. It was not Shakespeare, but it did the trick. Everyone was smiling by the end." The soldiers also write about the comfort of shared laughter. A corporal from a town in Yorkshire writes, "There is a man in my section who has a gift for making people laugh. He tells stories, pulls faces, and always knows just what to say to lighten the mood. I do not know what we would do without him. Laughter is a kind of medicine, and we need it more than we realized." These letters remind us that joy can be found even in the hardest of times. The soldiers sing, they laugh, they share their music with one another, and in doing so, they create moments of light that shine through the darkness. The lamplight is warm, and the night is gentle. The sound of laughter and music, even in memory, can lighten your own breathing and bring you closer to rest. Many of the letters contain expressions of faith, hope, and spiritual reflection. The soldiers write about prayers, blessings, and the comfort they find in belief. These letters are gentle and reverent, offering a glimpse of the inner lives of men far from home. A private from a village in Cornwall writes, "I say my prayers every night just as Mother taught me. I kneel beside my bed, or what passes for a bed, and I ask for strength and courage. I ask for protection for my family and for all the men around me. It brings me comfort knowing that I am not alone." The soldiers often mention the chaplains who serve alongside them. These men offer services, hear confessions, and provide a listening ear. A corporal from a town in Scotland writes, "The chaplain came to our section yesterday and held a short service. We gathered in a clearing, heads bowed, and he read from the Bible. His voice was calm and steady, and the words were familiar. It was a simple thing, but it meant a great deal to all of us." The letters also contain expressions of hope, hope for reunion, hope for peace, hope for a future beyond the conflict. A Lance Corporal from Wales writes, "I do not know what the future holds, but I believe that better days are coming. I hold on to that belief with all my heart. It is what keeps me going day after day. Hope is a powerful thing, and I will not let it go." Some soldiers write about the comfort they find in Scripture. A private from a village in Sussex writes, "I carry a small Bible with me, the one you gave me before I left. I read a few verses every night before sleep. The words are familiar and they remind me of home. They remind me that there is something greater than all of this, something enduring." The letters also contain blessings and prayers for loved ones at home. A sergeant from the Midlands writes, "I pray for you every night and for the children. I ask God to keep you safe and well, and to watch over you until I return. I believe He hears me, and I trust that He will answer." Faith takes many forms in these letters. Some soldiers write about formal religion. Others express a more personal, private spirituality. A corporal from a town in Yorkshire writes, "I am not a churchgoer, as you know, but I have found a kind of faith in these difficult days. I believe in the goodness of people, in the love of family, in the hope that things will get better. Perhaps that is enough." The letters also contain reflections on the nature of life and death, written with quiet acceptance. A private from a village in Kent writes, "I do not know what lies ahead, but I am at peace. I have done my best and I have loved well. Whatever happens, I know that I am part of something larger, something that will continue long after I am gone." As we read these letters, we can sense the faith and hope that sustained the soldiers. Their beliefs are varied, but their longing for meaning and comfort is universal. The lantern in the window glows softly, a light in the darkness. Whatever you believe, these words of faith and hope can wrap around you like a quiet blessing. Many of the letters are filled with dreams of the future, visions of the life the soldiers hope to live when the conflict is over. They imagine cottages and gardens, families and farms, quiet days and peaceful nights. These dreams sustain them through the difficult times. A private from a village in Devon writes, "When this is all over, I want a little house in the country, with a garden where I can grow vegetables. I want to wake up every morning to the sound of bird song, and to spend my evenings by the fire with the people I love. That is my dream, and I hold on to it with all my heart." The soldiers write about the simple pleasures they long for. A corporal from a town in Lancashire writes, "I dream of walking down the lane to the village pub, ordering a pint of ale and sitting by the window to watch the world go by. I dream of Sunday dinners with the family and long walks in the countryside. These are small things, but they are everything to me." Many letters contain plans for the future, practical plans, hopeful plans, plans that are equal parts dream and determination. A sergeant from Scotland writes, "I have been thinking about what I will do when I get home. I want to finish my apprenticeship and open my own shop. I want to marry the girl I left behind and raise a family. I have it all planned out in my mind, every detail. It keeps me focused on what matters." The soldiers also dream of reunion. A private from a village in Sussex writes, "I dream of the moment when I step off the train and see your face on the platform. I dream of holding you in my arms and never letting go. I dream of coming home and staying home for good." Some letters contain more philosophical reflections on the future. A lance corporal from Wales writes, "I do not know what the world will look like when this is over, but I hope it will be better. I hope we will have learned something from all of this. I hope there will be peace, real, lasting peace, for our children and their children." The dreams in these letters are varied but share a common thread: the longing for normalcy, for love, for a life free from the shadow of conflict. A corporal from a town in Yorkshire writes, "I dream of ordinary things, breakfast at the kitchen table, a walk in the park, an evening by the fire. I never thought I would miss the ordinary so much, but now it is all I want. The extraordinary can wait. I just want to come home." As we read these letters, we can share in the soldiers' dreams. Their visions of the future are full of hope and tenderness, a reminder that even in the darkest times, the human spirit reaches toward the light. The lamplight flickers gently, and the night is soft. As these soldiers dream of the future, you can dream too, of rest, of peace, of mornings yet to come. Not all letters found their way to their intended recipients. Some were lost in transit, delayed beyond use, or left unfinished in a pocket or a drawer. These letters carry their own quiet weight, and we honor them now with a moment of reflection. A letter might have been written and folded, ready to be sent, but never reached the mail runner in time. A private from a village in Kent writes, "I have started this letter 3 times now, and each time I am interrupted. Perhaps I will finish it tomorrow or the day after. There is never enough time, and yet the words I want to say are simple. I love you, I miss you, I am thinking of you. Sometimes the letters were lost in the chaos of movement, misplaced in a supply depot, left behind in a hurried evacuation, dropped in the mud and forgotten. A corporal from a town in Manchester writes, I heard that a whole sack of mail went missing last month, somewhere between here and the coast. I do not know if any of my letters were in it, but I hope they were not. It is a strange thing to think of all those words floating out there unread. There are also letters that were written but never sent, held back out of caution, or because the words felt too raw to share. A sergeant from Scotland writes, There are things I want to say that I cannot put in a letter, things that would only worry you, or that I am not ready to speak of. So I keep them to myself, and I write instead about the weather and the food and the small comforts of the day. For the families at home, there were letters they never received, letters that would have brought news or comfort, or simply the reassurance that their loved one was still alive. The waiting was its own kind of hardship. A wife from a village in Somerset writes, Each day I watch for the postman hopping for a letter. Some weeks one arrives, and I read it over and over until I have memorized every word. Other weeks there is nothing, and the silence is difficult to bear. We also pause to remember the letters that were found too late, discovered in a pocket or a kit bag, read by someone other than the intended recipient. These letters are bittersweet, full of love and hope that never reached its destination. A mother from a village in Devon writes, They sent me his belongings after he was gone. Among them was a letter he had started but never finished. He was writing to me, telling me not to worry, telling me he would be home soon. I read it and wept, and then I folded it carefully and put it with the others. As we honor these letters, the lost, the unsent, the never received, we recognize that they are part of the story too. They carry the same love and longing as the letters that arrived safely, and they deserve to be remembered. The lamplight glows softly, and we sit in quiet acknowledgement. Even the letters that were never read carry their own quiet weight, and we honor them in silence. The end of the conflict came in November 1918, and the letters from that time are filled with a mixture of relief, disbelief, and cautious hope. Soldiers wrote home with the news, struggling to put into words what they had waited so long to say. A private from a village in Yorkshire writes, It is over. I can hardly believe it, but it is over. The guns have stopped, and there is a strange silence over everything. The men are quiet, almost stunned. Some are smiling, some are weeping. I do not know what I feel except that I want to come home. The letters describe the moment of the armistice, the sudden stillness, the disbelief, the slow realization that the waiting was finally over. A corporal from a town in Lancashire writes, "At 11 o'clock the firing stopped. For a moment no one moved. Then slowly we began to look at one another. Someone laughed, someone cheered, and then we were all shaking hands and slapping backs. It was over. It was really over." The soldiers also write about the journey home. The process was slow and uncertain, with long waits and frequent delays. A sergeant from Scotland writes, "We do not know when we will be allowed to leave, but the hope of it keeps us going. Every day we hear rumors of ships and trains, of demobilization orders and travel passes. I try not to get too excited, but it is hard. Home feels so close now, after being so far away for so long." As the soldiers began to return, the letters home became shorter, replaced by the promise of reunion. A private from a village in Kent writes, "I am on my way. The train is crowded and slow, but I do not care. Every mile brings me closer to you. I will see you soon, days, perhaps not weeks. Wait for me at the station and look for me in the crowd." The letters from family members during this time are full of anticipation and joy. A mother from a village in Devon writes, "We have received word that you are coming home. I cannot describe the happiness I feel. The house is ready. Your room is waiting, and we are counting the hours until we see your face. Hurry home, my dear boy. We are all waiting for you." The reunions themselves are described in later letters. Quiet, emotional, full of words and silences. A wife from a village in Somerset writes, "When I saw him step off the train, I could not move. He looked thinner, older, but his eyes were the same. He smiled when he saw me, and then we were in each other's arms, and the world fell away. He is home. He is finally home." The soldiers who returned faced the task of rebuilding their lives, finding work, reconnecting with family, learning to live in a world at peace. A corporal from a town in Manchester writes, "It is strange to be home again. Everything is familiar, and yet everything feels different. I am still adjusting, still finding my footing. But I am grateful to be here, grateful to be alive, and grateful for the love that surrounds me." As we read these final letters, we can feel the relief and hope that filled them. The conflict was over, and the soldiers were coming home. The journey had been long and difficult, but it was ending at last. The lantern in the window glows softly, a signal of welcome. As peace returns to these letters, you can let your own body feel the relief of rest drawing near. As we come to the end of our reading, we pause to reflect on what these letters mean, not just as historical documents, but as expressions of the human heart. The letters we have read tonight are simple in many ways. They describe meals and weather, friends and routines. They thank loved ones for parcels and ask for news from home. They share small moments of joy and quiet reflections on peace. And yet, in their simplicity, they carry something profound. These letters are a testament to connection. Across the distance of hundreds of miles, across the separation of months and years, people reached out to one another with words. They wrote by candlelight in cramped dugouts on scraps of paper. They folded their letters carefully, addressed them with hope, and sent them on journeys that could take weeks. And when the letters arrived, they were read and reread, kept safe and treasured. The letters remind us that even in the most difficult circumstances, the ordinary persists. Soldiers wrote about tea and bread, about cats and horses, about the sound of rain and the light of stars. They found beauty in the frost on a parapet, in the song of a lark, in the warmth of a shared blanket. They held onto the small things, the everyday things, because those things gave them comfort. The letters also remind us of the power of hope. The soldiers dreamed of cottages and gardens, of Sunday dinners and long walks, of holding their loved ones in their arms. They imagined a future beyond the conflict, a life of peace and simplicity. And those dreams sustained them day after day through the long months of waiting. Most of all, the letters remind us of love. Love for parents and siblings, for wives and sweethearts, for children growing up far away. Love expressed in simple words: I miss you. I am thinking of you. I will see you soon. Love that crossed the distance and endured the separation. Love that was written down and sent across the sea. As we close this reading, we carry the letters with us, not as artifacts of a distant past, but as reminders of what matters most: connection, resilience, hope, love. You do not need to remember the details. You do not need to recall the names or dates. What matters is the feeling, the sense of quiet companionship, the warmth of words exchanged across time and distance. The lamplight is soft, and the letters are folded. These letters remind us that words, small, ordinary words, can carry us through even the longest nights. We have traveled a long way together tonight. We began with a folded map and a bundle of letters, tied with faded string. We stepped back in time to the years between 1914 and 1918, and we followed the journey of letters from trench to home and back again. We read words written by candlelight, in cramped dugouts and quiet billets, by soldiers far from the people they loved. We heard about daily life, the food, the weather, the routines. We opened parcels from home, full of socks and chocolate and photographs. We listened to letters addressed to mothers and fathers, to wives and sweethearts, to children growing up in distant villages. We read letters from home, too, words of encouragement and news, sent across the sea by families who waited and hoped. We sat with soldiers in quiet moments under stars and frost, and we heard their reflections on peace and stillness. We met the animals who offered comfort, the cats and dogs, the horses and birds. We tracked the seasons as they passed, from rain to frost to the first signs of spring. We heard songs and laughter, prayers and blessings, dreams of the future. We honored the letters that were never sent, the words that were never read, the silence that followed. And we celebrated the armistice, the end of the conflict, and the slow, hopeful journey home. Through it all, the letters reminded us of what matters most: connection, resilience, hope, and love. You do not need to remember any of this. The letters are folded now. The candle is burning low and the night is quiet. You can let the story fade into a single feeling, a feeling of calm, of companionship, of rest. I thank you for listening. Sleep well. And before you drift off completely, I have a small question for you. Where are you listening from tonight? What city, what time, what moment brought you here? If you feel like sharing, leave a comment below. Tell me if this is your bedtime companion, your commute friend, or your quiet study background. I read every single one, and it means more than you know to hear from you. Now, rest. The story is done. The candles are fading, and wherever you are in the world, I hope sleep finds you gently. Good night. As we close the last letter, you can let the story blur into a single feeling of safety and calm.